So, welcome back. Today is part 5 of the 7-part series on healing infidelity from the inside out. And if you haven't watched any of those or listened into any of those episodes, we've got the links to everything right down below in the notes. In episodes 3 and 4, we talked about healing the victim. And then in episode 4, we talked about healing the betrayer. And today, we're here to talk about healing the couple. But before we dive into that, I want to make sure that everybody knows about your free guide to healing infidelity from the inside out, where you share all the strategies, pretty much what we're talking about in each one of these in a big picture so you understand how it all works and why. So if you want to grab that, that is right down below in the show notes. And I guess we're ready to dive into today's conversation about healing the couple. So, Todd, I know people really want to know how do you specifically address healing, the process of healing as a couple? And I know that, you've built this program sequentially. So at this point, they've done their self-work,
Yes.
they've helped each other heal, and now they're ready to heal as a couple.
Yes. Yes. And of course, it's not that linear because there's always more individual healing that takes place. And even in the individual healing, they're doing some of the communication because you just do. And so, and we did mention in module 1 a few of the exercises that
Mm-hmm.
people learn. And so in this module 5 is where we really kind of bear down and really use some of these communication exercises. So, as healing as a couple, because we now have much more awareness of our complexity, that we're not looking at each other as singular entities, that we understand we have a developmental history, we have parts that have been wounded, we have parts that have protected us, and we also have a healthy part that wants this relationship to work. Then we understand all that. Now we can look at each other with hopefully a deeper understanding of each other and ourselves. And so that our communication now hopefully can become more robust. Otherwise, what I see with couples, whether it's infidelity involved or not, is my wounded parts are communicating, really fighting with your wounded parts. And this could go on for days, weeks, months, years, decades. And so that's really not what we want. So here you have worked and you understand the complexity and you are coming in with a much more bigger awareness so that as a couple now you could do the things we've been talking about. How do we communicate in ways where we truly can grow as individuals and as a couple and regulate each other's autonomic nervous system down and up. Down meaning from more stressed to less stressed, up meaning from less alive and robust to more alive and robust. And how do we do that as a couple now that we've become much more aware of all that we have brought into the relationship?
So I think you already answered the question about the role that individual work plays in the overall healing process for the couple. But so I'm going to just change that question and ask you a new question. And how do you know when a couple is ready to progress to this point? I mean, are there some specific signs that you look for to know that they're ready to move from the individual work to the couple
Well,
work? That
in reality, in my therapy,
Yeah.
I'm not that sequential. The program has to be that way because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the moment with everybody. And I think that really makes a difference and it makes a lot of sense. But when I'm working in real time with people, sometimes we're kind of doing the individual work and the couples work and then the individual work and the couples work. So, but it's still the answer I have for that is that each person has developed a curiosity about themselves
Mm-hmm.
and that they're doing the exercises in the earlier modules and that they are recognizing. For example, the person who was the victim recognizes not only how much I was hurt, but how it triggered some of my parts that I had from before that didn't feel seen or good enough. I realized I working with a couple today where he he did a cheat. Well, it was a cheat. It was a little cheat, but it was a cheat anyway, and it was about an ex-girlfriend, so it really hurt her
Oh.
greatly. It
Hmm.
wasn't like he crossed the line a little, but he crossed the line, say it that way. And she was came from a family where she really wasn't seen or heard. So her reaction when she discovered that he had done what he did was, "I'm not important." Not to mention she had a previous relationship where the person used her, cheated on her, and really took advantage of her. So
Oh boy.
she she was able to do some deep work, and we did some work with her. I've also done some work with him. Actually, there's a couple where I did separate them and did some EMDR trauma processing for him and for her. He had a hard time learning how to self-regulate. She had a hard time feeling seen and heard. And so the infidelity triggered her, and then as a person who did the betrayal, he worked through some of the trauma that really led to him making a stupid choice, a
Hmm.
hurtful choice, and so they were ready. And even today, actually, we have followed the program on this particular. So now we came together. I saw them
Hmm.
together the first session, and then I saw him individually. I saw her individually. It just made sense to do it that way with them. And now I brought them together, and they're she's recognizing when she got mad at him right before the session about something. Sure enough, she didn't feel seen. So, but she was, that's what that is. And now she's able to work because she knows that enough about herself. She can work as a couple. He's like, oh, I was afraid of being abandoned. Yeah, I got that. That's why I got so mad when she gave me a funny face and she didn't seem happy with me. And I got, yeah. So it's making the couples work a lot easier because they're aware of their various parts. So awareness of parts, the younger parts, awareness of how our earlier childhood, which is all about module 2, um, has played a part in all this, aware of our attachment styles. If they're there, they're ready now to really focus on each other as a couple who wants to turn the page and develop a new chapter in their lives as a more conscious, more mature couple that can communicate adult to adult.
So can you explain why it's important that for couples that are at going through this process to learn how to turn towards each other to upregulate and build that stronger connection? So, that coming back together.
Right, right. It's so easy. We're so instinctively protective. We
Hmm.
have a brain that's set up for survival. So we're so instinctively protective that we turn away, not towards, when we're uncomfortable. And there's a variety of ways we turn away. Yelling is a
Hmm.
turning away, actually. It's not a turning towards. Yelling is a solo act. It's not a duet. That's when I'm yelling to reduce my tension, okay? Or leaving the other room or just shutting down is another way. It's not a turning towards. So in order for us to learn how to um, how to heal as a couple, we need to begin. We need to at least want to and practice developing the emotional muscle to turn towards when I want to run like hell or scream. So I'm not going to do either. I need to turn towards you. I have to be with you. So if you're mad at me, couple today, she was angry. He needs to tune in and go, oh man, I'm freaking out inside. I'm feeling like she's going to leave
Scary.
me. Take a breath or two, down, you know, and then say, okay, I'm not really in danger. I need to tune in to you. I think I'm going off the answer to you. I'm not sure. No, wait. The question you asked was what now? Because I started in a
Why is it
path.
important for couples to going through the process to learn how to turn
Turning
towards
towards.
each other
So
and
yeah,
then to
so when
upregulate and
he
build that
yeah,
that
so
connection,
so it's actually to upregulate and downregulate because in this case he needed to downregulate himself to stay
right?
tuned in, and then to and she needed to, well, when he did
They're
that,
both
she
down
felt
regulating,
seen.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, they're
okay.
both down
Yeah.
regulated, and she felt seen. Now, and in terms of upregulating us to make us feel more alive, yeah, we need to turn towards each other. Engaging with each other, tuning into each other is naturally upregulating. It's naturally like I'm letting you fill me up, and I am filling you up. I am here for you. When I say filling up, I'm here. I'm with you.
Right.
And the other person needs to be able to receive. And again, repeating myself, if you're aware of your attachment styles, it can oftentimes help to catch it and practice not doing the survival mechanism that you learned as a child, but to work on that weaker part of you so that you could turn towards each other and have a more robust, upregulated, energetic, engaged relationship.
And I'm sure that, as an aside, because you work with couples that aren't in this kind of a crisis, but you probably see that inability, I'm sure, a lot of times in couples not being able to upregulate or downregulate or really be attuned to each other because of all these other things. So it's not just for people that
No,
are in this kind of a crisis. It could be a lot of other
sure,
things going on in a relationship that
sure.
this applies to as well.
As a couple, and what Module 5 is all about in one word is attunement. And you said that, it's to tune in. Each person needs to feel gotten and understood. And that is true for all relationships, no matter what we've been going through, whether it's infidelity involved or not, or drugs or alcohol or in-law issues or whatever. We need to
Yeah.
learn how to attune. In the case of infidelity, it's the specifics of it, of what we've been going through, true, but we still, no matter what the specifics are, we need to bring those specifics into the communication and practice the attunement that's true for all couples.
Okay. So let's end this conversation with, I want you to tell a story. I know people love it when you share stories. So I'd love to hear, I know people would love to hear, what is like one or some of the most significant transformation you've witnessed in couples that were able to come together and heal? And obviously, there's more to the program, not just we don't end here, you don't end here. But what is like some of the most significant transformations that, you don't have to give us a bunch, but maybe one, because I think that would really help people understand the power and that
Hmm.
you can overcome this.
Yes, yes. So many. I mean, the couple I'm talking about is one right here. But let me see. Um, there have been, I can think of a couple I worked with in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So, relatively recently for our conversation right now. And this is a couple where he cheated multiple times
Oh, wow.
for some significant length of time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to go through their individual work. She was very mixed about staying in the relationship, wasn't really sure if that's what she wanted to do. But there
Mm-hmm.
was a part of it that understood he had a traumatic history and that he wasn't integrated, that his wounded parts ran the show. And so she was curious enough to hang in there and work on it. He did the work. He did we did trauma work. Sometimes, like I said, I used the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. He, in his case, actually, um, once we did EMDR, it was interesting because he was like, who was that guy that did that? I mean, he couldn't even relate to the
Wow.
person who did that. He's like, who was that? And um, his wife, no, she just saw the integrity of that. She could see the integrity. She could see how he was actually perplexed by his former self, and but they still had to learn how to communicate. They still had to learn how to do the things you and I are talking about.
Hmm.
Um, they had to learn how to attune. He had to go beyond just not cheating to making her feel like she mattered. She came from a family where she was kind of invisible and just was the caretaker of the family. She
Hmm.
had to learn how to be more selfish. So she became more acquainted with the selfish parts, the parts not never self-absorbed, but the parts that say, what I want is to go on a vacation to this place. So she was too easygoing.
Oh,
She learned how to be more assertive. And so, in learning how to heal as a couple, yes, he did his individual work. Um, I didn't do EMDR with her, but I did EMDR with him. I've had couples believe me that we haven't done any EMDR and it still works because they're able to regulate each other. So in his case, it was such a damaging childhood that I really decided that we should try that. But they were able to, they began to learn how to communicate. She had to learn how to be more selfish. He learned how to make room for her. And it got, for him, it was easier than we expected. Once he
wow.
went through his own trauma, he was a very self-absorbed, secretive man, avoidant attachment style. They both had avoidant attachment style. And they both had to learn how to receive, tune in, ask for what they wanted, make room for each other, and they they were very thrilled with the outcome of that. I
Wow.
mean, I see, and I can tell you the couple I saw just before. I'm sure there's someone I'm seeing next today, later in the afternoon. It's this, yes, as a matter of fact, that is a true statement. I have a client a few hours ago where she cheated on him. That's a good example too. Another example where um, she she realized she was an attention. She needed attention a lot,
Hmm.
and where did that come from? We never did any EMDR with her, but we helped her tune into where that came from and learn how to be aware of that. He was very closed off, and he realized, and he said, like, I'm not blaming myself for what she did, but I know that the way I dealt with her, and that I was selfish, self-absorbed, and I would go fishing a lot, but I didn't spend time with her. I didn't tune into her. That didn't help. So he, as the victim, uh, has been, getting over some of his insecurities about it, learning
Hmm.
to reframe. He thought in his head he thought he just thinks I'm not as good sexually as this other guy was. It was one man
Oh,
in this other case, and that wasn't it at all. And he really totally misrepresented what was going on. She wanted attention. She needed to learn how to soothe herself better. He was a person who was kind of needy, but he also needed to stop fishing all the time, tune into his wife, and learn about feelings, developing feeling skills. Is all part of the module 5. You need to find what you're feeling, identify it, be able to share it, be interested in her, and so that's what they're doing. And they're finishing up with me, and they're in a much better place. So there's two examples of
yeah,
just
that's awesome. So
yeah.
hopefully everybody listening, can see that, right? It's all too easy, I think, to make up these stories. You go through this and we, make a meaning to all of this. But when you're able to get the help and the support, you'll be able to see this whole thing in a different light. And that itself opens the door for the individuals, whether, who you are, to heal.
Yes. You know what I say, Kristen? I've been saying this only recently. I came up with this myself. The problem with infidelity is that you're not telling the truth, right? It's a secret. That's the biggest
Yeah.
problem. So if we're going to heal, let's not tell more lies to ourselves. This guy's lie was that it's about I'm not sexually as good as. No, I'm interested, and I want each person, including the person who was the victim, to be curious about what's really true. What's true? What is it?
Yeah.
That's how we can heal as a couple. What's really true? The good news in almost every case that is that deep down we're better people than that, and we need to discover that because that's what's true.
Right.
A cheater isn't always a cheater. The victim isn't always a victim. What's really true? What's really the truth? What makes people do what they do, and how do we heal? What's really true? So I find that a lot of people that you know, where they don't. And I'm saying you have to stay with your partner who betrayed you, but if you're gonna leave, leave in truth. Don't leave with a story that, well, that person's just a jerk, or this person's just sexually inhibited, or that we're much more than that story. That's
Yeah.
not the truth. The story is
Yep.
not the truth. Story is not the truth.
And that's why it's key for both parties to heal themselves, whether or not you stay with the betrayed partner. You still need to go through that healing process because it's
Yeah,
going to make it a lot easier, whether or not
right.
you're doing the work with them. And same with the betrayer as well. If you
Yes.
don't stay, so that you definitely have to go through, if you're together, go through the entire process that Todd is talking about. Or if you decide to go it alone, there's still work that you do need to get to go through that's going to help you feel a lot better.
Yeah. We need to
So
discover what is true. And then from that place of discovery, now we're in a position to do some deeper healing.
it's awesome. All right, Todd, that's it for today. We will be back next time talking about triggers because
Yes, we
that's an
are.
inevitable part of this process. You might be going
Absolutely.
great, and then something happens,
Kaput.
and yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's not
So
really
that's it.
kaput. Yes.
No, but it can
It
take you
feels
a
that
few
way.
steps back,
Yeah.
and it may feel
Yeah.
that way, but there's ways to navigate it. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for the next one. In the meantime, go grab Todd's free guide to healing infidelity from the inside out, and you're going to have a better understanding of all the strategies and the process that he talks about, and to get you started on your healing journey. So that's it for today. Thank you, Todd.
Yes. Thank you.
150. All right. Okay, Todd. Well, welcome everybody. Today is part 4 of the 7-part series on healing infidelity from the inside out. And Todd and I are continuing this conversation about your program, Healing Infidelity from the Inside Out. And specifically today, we're talking about healing the betrayed partner and infidelity and attachment styles. We're going to dive into all of that. In the last week, in the last conversation, we talked about healing the betrayed partner, and today we're talking about healing the betrayer. So if you didn't catch that one, we've got the link right down below in the notes. And before we get started, as usual, we want to make sure everybody knows about that guide you've created for people that are ready to get started on this journey, full of strategies that you've personally used, Todd, helping thousands of couples successfully heal after infidelity. It's called The Guide to Healing Infidelity from the Inside Out. Yes, it's the same name as your program. And we've got
Repetitive.
that link. Well, whatever, it's a good day. That link is right down below in the show notes. So let's dive into this topic today about healing the betrayer, because it's equally important to to heal the betrayed and the betrayer. So let's talk about, how does the betrayer begin their healing journey and take full responsibility for their actions, because that's key, right?
That is key. And one of the things that you see with people that are betrayed is, as I talk in module 1, is that panics a lot. They've been caught, right? They're oftentimes they're very fearful of loss. And again, the people that see me and the people that do my programs, they're usually not sociopaths. These are the people that have hurt the other person. And I always say, we're not minimizing the pain of the person who was betrayed. It was a serious offense. It robs
Mm-hmm.
from the betrayed person the opportunity to make decisions based on what's really true, and that's not okay. Um, so for the ones that I see, that yeah, there's panic, and there's oftentimes self shame and self loathing, and oftentimes the problem with living in there, it's one thing to experience it, but the one thing to kind of wallow in those feelings, to live in those feelings, is twofold. One is you're not going to change for the better and make this a more trusting relationship if you stay there. And secondly, you're not going to be tuned in and present to your partner who needs healing too. So it really doesn't do a whole lot of good to live in shame and self-loathing and regret. So that's what this particular part of the module is. This whole module is about. It's helping that person who betrayed to learn, to grow, to understand what's behind what they did in a deeper way, but mostly to heal so that they can be present for themselves and the person that they betrayed.
Yeah. So you're saying they really got to get out of those feelings to be able to move on. And
They can't stay wallowing in it. Of course, it's a normal feeling to feel shame and regret. Feelings are fine. Feelings are not the problem, but it's this module is about helping the person heal. They got to find, sure, there's these different parts of them. We've talked about parts.
mm-hmm.
There's the wounded part, there's the defensive part, there's the part that did that thing,
Yep.
but there's also a self, a healthy, wise self that we're trying to cultivate. It's not like we're giving it to you, we're just trying to help you access this wiser self, this more mature self that can be one of the biggest resources of helping to heal those other parts of you that did that thing, that beat you up for doing that thing, and all those parts that really are not going to give you what you want.
Okay. So, so much is focused on the betrayed partner, not the betrayer, but the betrayed partner, and getting them to heal, helping them heal. And I know you know this from thousands, helping thousands of couples heal after infidelity, that it's also equally important to give attention to the betrayer. But the question really here is, how do you make it safe for the victim of the betrayal to be able to understand and participate in helping the betrayer to heal, right? And why is it
Yeah.
so important as part of the process? Because I'm sure most people are like, why they were the
Yeah.
wrong party, why do they
Right.
need to heal, and why do
Right.
me as the betrayed party, why do I need to help them,
Yes.
right?
Right. Right. Well, definitely, that's a very good question. And when I work with these modules, I am engaging both the person who was the victim and also the person who did it to help that person who did it heal for this module. And
Mm-hmm.
why is it important? It's important because the original problems, the core problems, came probably due to interpersonal reasons,
Yeah.
probably due to developmental interpersonal reasons, uh, faulty attachments, as I've talked about. Um, and so the healing, in great part, has to come from developing a healthier couple relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who betrayed does need to have the person who was the victim to help co-create the kind of environment where the betrayer can learn how to regulate in healthier ways so he or she doesn't betray again. So it's like we need the person who was the victim to be part of the solution,
Yes.
even though we're not saying that it's any responsibility for the betrayed person that, that to cause the person to cheat. It is the responsibility of the betrayed person and the betrayer together to create the kind of interpersonal um, atmosphere so that you could both regulate each other's nervous systems better. So that the chance of repeating an infidelity goes way, way down when you have that kind of regulating relationship where you learn to regulate each other. Where, we talk about it in module 5, but in module 4, we're trying to help the person betrayed, and the person who betrayed needs to work on himself.
Yep.
The person who was the victim needs to, even though the pain needs to be acknowledged, needs to be present for that person who did the betrayal. You cannot, it's not going to work for the victim to look at their partner as some caricature, this evil, demonic person
Yeah.
who is a cheater, who always will be a cheater. I get those comments on YouTube all the time. People get mad at me, like, they get mad at me
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
saying that the person who cheated has issues and we need to look at and to make changes, because a lot of people have a certain automatic reaction where the person who cheated should be just punished forever and leave the person, and the person's no good, and none of that's true. So yeah, so the betrayed person, I want to repeat, is not at all responsible for the infidelity, but is definitely co-responsible for helping to create a climate that works.
So how do you make it safe though for that? The victim is already, as we've talked in other conversations, so how do you make it safe or possible for the victim to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to participate? How do you get that
Well,
person to
first of
that
all,
point where they can
yeah,
even think about it?
yeah, they need to be heard first, right? The
Right,
module set up. We take care of the betrayed person first. That's module 3.
right. Mm-hmm.
And you do the module once, you might need to do it a few times, right? It's a process, and it's very important for the victim, to take care of themselves. But I have the betrayer taking care of and being part of the healing for the person who was the victim. So we do that first, and you continue to do that when the person. There has to be, in order for us to, it's a big ask. It is a big ask to ask the victim of the betrayal
Mm-hmm.
just to tune in and to try to understand more deeply what's going on with their partner who just really hurt them. It's a big
Yeah.
ask. There's no question. So what we have to do is we have to see some commitment, some initial work. Why it's module 4, not 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, there has to be already some signs that the victim of the betrayal sees that the person who betrayed is doing the work. Say,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is different. They're committed. That's very important. If I see a couple in my practice where the person who betrayed isn't doing the work, I do not ask the victim, to do this work yet, of tuning into the other person, be a part of the healing for the betrayer. That is not, there has to be a sense of there is something changing. You can't wait till it's 100% secure. Nothing is anyway. But you have to have some signs that you are really committed to this. Okay, you're committed to this. Maybe I can take down some of my walls, some of my protectiveness as the victim,
Mm-hmm.
and focus on you and be part of your healing, which comes back to me. We have to help each other out. We have to understand that you don't have to risk all at once either. It's a process. So the person who's the victim, they they're tuned in and they do the best they can. And then as time goes on, maybe they're able to drop their protectiveness a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and they're there more, and they're tuned in more, and they are curious more about the partner, and learn about the partner more who did the betraying. So it is a process. It's not some big quantum event that happens.
Right.
So
So
the
there's a sense
betrayer
of
has to,
readiness.
yes,
You have to
yeah,
see
the
the signs,
betrayer has to
and it's
demonstrate something, and then baby
baby
steps.
steps.
Yeah,
Baby steps, especially here, because this is so
yes,
sensitive, and you got to make sure that the victim is able to do this. But this might be a slower process than
it might be,
some of the other ones.
probably
Who
is.
knows? Or if it come back and, maybe this is
Well,
where you
again,
spend most of the healing time. I don't know. It's
I
huge,
don't I
right?
don't see in my practice. I don't see that this takes up so much more of the healing time than the
Okay.
other things. I just think that everyone's different,
Right.
but the person who's the victim has to be able to understand at some level that I need to put out a little bit and then do the research. So yeah,
Yeah.
he or she, the
Yep.
one who betrayed, is already doing some work, and also doing some work in this module. Like, what happens, what I see in my practice. I'll give you an example. In my practice, I've seen the person who betrayed, if the person who was the victim expresses some anger, some disappointment. And the person who betrayed goes, I know I'm such a terrible person. I'm so bad. And she is like, it doesn't, I'm saying she, I'm
Right,
using the word
right.
she. I shouldn't be using the word she, but let's say in this case, as I said, that the man, it's a heterosexual relationship, the man cheated, the female is in the victim role. And it's like, and she sees him do this. She's like, so I might say, well, how'd that feel when he did that? She goes, he just seems like he's all about himself still. He's not with me. And so now the
Oh,
person who betrayed has to do that work that we're doing in this module where, in this case, he gets out of it. He doesn't slip into his shame. He stays tuned in. Right? That's module
yes,
3. And
yes.
he's tuned into her and he's doing this like, okay, I feel bad about it, but this is about you right now. And I could understand how you feel. Tell me more. What's going on? I'm interested. I'm here. Oh my God, I can understand how yeah, that reminded you of when you were younger and your dad betrayed you too. Oh my God, I can get it. He is with her. Now she is going, wow, you're with me. So that when we get to module 4 now, and it's about him, she's already seeing, wow, you're showing some signs of being there,
Yeah.
which, again, that's what he needs to do in this module too. They all kind of run together. But
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be able to be there more for her. She sees the change. It gives her a little bit more. She doesn't even have to. Her protection starts to drop a little bit. And it's a little easier for her to be there. Not all the way,
Awesome.
not
Yep.
all the way, you know,
Right.
um, but definitely a lot easier, a lot easier to understand and tune in to the other person.
Right. So we've talked a
Good
lot about
question.
in good, other conversations we've had about attachment styles. So let's address this in this module or this conversation about why is it so important for the betrayer to address their attachment styles in their healing journey.
Most most of the people actually I see currently that have cheated, they have an avoidant attachment style. But there are those also have the anxious attachment style. The avoidant attachment style, again, to review, is when the person regulates only internally and doesn't let others get close. So this is a person who really doesn't go around feeling love. They might know they're loved, but they don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that other person who was the victim could have been loving you up and down, left and right, but you're not taking it in. It's like trying to feed someone whose jaw's wired shut. And so you're not taking it in. And so you're empty. And then
Mm-hmm.
you go to work and somebody is new and gives you a little bit of a dopamine hit, like gives you attention, and you feel alive. See, with your
Mm-hmm.
partner, in order to feel alive after a certain amount of time, you actually need to be open to receive. And if you have an avoidant attachment style, you're not going to get that close to your partner. So it's easier for you to take that dopamine hit and do that slippery slope and cheat. So once you are aware that you have an avoidant attachment style, you start to know what to work on. And part of the healing for this person who betrayed, who has an avoidance attachment style, is to learn his or her body. What's going on in my belly? What's going on in my heart? Can I see? Can I notice what I'm feeling and share with you and be open to you, which we talk about in module 5. But how can I also receive your love? I mean, I had this one couple I work with lately, and he goes, "Yeah, I wasn't really great at receiving." And now that I think about it, the fact that you're here with Todd Creager, and you haven't left me, even though I cheated on you, I never allowed myself to feel love just that you're still here. I could feel it.
Wow.
See, that was a step of healing. That's why he needs to know that. Now, the other style, the anxious attachment style, is when a person just always needs validation, validation, validation. Once they understand they have that attachment style, they know the roadmap is to learn how to self-soothe, how to
Mm-hmm.
calm down, how to not use people for my only source of of anxiety regulation. I need to learn how to do that myself. So if my wife and I are having a struggle, or if my husband and I are having a struggle, I don't just go out and get soothed by
And do
somebody
something.
else.
Yeah, yeah. So awareness is a lot of it. a lot awareness and understanding how you one personally reacts in situations and why that causes other things you to go and do other things that might be detrimental to your relationship.
Yeah.
So awesome. So our last question here is really, can you give me one example, because you talk about journaling, um, of how journaling can help facilitate this healing process for the betrayer?
You know, it's so funny. I'm not sure if I said this in our last video or not, but the one the thing that I just used just today with a couple, and I use it. I use it in the program. A specific journaling is when you are able to recognize. Let's say the person has that avoidant attachment style,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to realize they don't feel that love. They actually can write to their healthy self and say, "Dear healthy self, I'm feeling unloved, undeserving, blah 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 blah," and they start to recognize that there's a part of them that goes around feeling undeserving all the time. And as long as that part runs the show, they could sabotage that relationship. So that part uh, writes to the healthy adult self. I feel terrible. I'm a terrible human being. I don't deserve. And then the healthy adult writes back, "Dear little
Mm.
so and so, dear little John, dear little Bob. I understand that you feel that way, and between you and me, I understand where that comes from with a mom who is very busy and a dad who is very critical, making this up, but not really.
Yeah.
um, and I understand that you would feel that way.
Yeah.
However, and I know I love you," which is a very important part of the process because these parts need love, which we talk
Mm-hmm.
about in these healing modules.
Mm-hmm.
We help to love those parts and go deeper into it. So, however, part two of this is basically, you're too young to be married. I'm the one that decides how we're going to handle this. I will never keep a secret, and I will go to my partner as I'm learning how to be more open to sharing and more deeply. This is again the avoidant style. So that would
Oh,
be
okay.
an example of journaling to develop an awareness, but an
Yeah.
also kind of an integration of the healthy self with that part that feels so undeserving. That's one example. There are a number of ways to use journaling, and I encourage people to write about their feelings and to be aware of what's going on, to be able to write about when they feel particularly undeserving or they feel particularly vulnerable to an urge, to write
Yeah.
that down. Like, wow, I'm
Yeah.
feeling that urge to call that massage place again. What's going on with me? What am I feeling? What's going on? And to write about it. And then they could do that exercise.
And then
You
does
might
that
want to do that, but I don't need to do that because I handle it this way. It's learning to develop that healthy self. That's one
yeah, so
good
that
example.
kind of takes you out when you I'm just asking, like, so when you journal, especially in that last situation, it helps to work through the urge
You can work through
so
the urge.
that
When you're writing about
you
the
can,
urge, there's options.
yeah,
Slows you down, you know?
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope everybody understands, like, listening. I mean, there's a lot more that goes than we've just kind of touched the surface here, but there's a lot
Yes.
more that goes into all of this. But these are like the key things that people need to be aware of, right? When they're going through the healing process as the betrayed partner, right? And some of the
Yes.
tips and things like that. But there's a lot more inside of Todd's program, and, if you're ready to get started on your healing journey, Todd has that guide that is the guide to healing infidelity from the inside out. It goes through the whole entire process in that guide, like gives you like all the steps and the whys and how it all helps. And it'll really open your eyes to this, you know, it's a very successful method that you've used. So I urge everybody who hasn't gotten it to go down and get that guide. And then you'll get on Todd's list and then you can find out more about this very, very special and effective program that he's put together. So I think that's it for today. Anything else you
Hmm.
want to add, Todd, to our conversation?
No,
We're good.
I think so. I think we said it. and
Okay,
it's just it's a worthy process. It's
it is.
just very rewarding.
And stay tuned because the next time we're going to be back talking about healing the couple. And I'm excited to talk to you about that because that's a very interesting topic. So stay tuned. Again, if you haven't caught any of the episodes, they're all linked below in the notes right there for you so that you can watch every single one at your leisure. So that's it for today, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.